1 and a 2 and a 3. Hello and welcome back to Organic Cardboard. I'm still over here at Sean's house today, and we just got through with another game. That game today is Wyrmspan, the brand new Wingspan game from PecktecGames. This is, so it's designed by Connie Vogelman, the same woman that did Apiary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Elizabeth Hargrave's the original Wingspan designer. So
as a concept, yeah.
Right. So and she was involved with it. I know she was involved with it, but I think all of like the differences in this game, the main like setup, the way that they did it, that changed away from Wingspan was all Connie Vogelman's whatever input. So she's they're putting her to work at Stonemaier. It looks like she just started. Like her first game was Apiary, and now she's already on to Wyrmspan.
So with the art on this, was it one person or is it a bunch of people? That
No, I do. I thought I had that art memorized. The person that did that was Clementine. That's right, Clementine Campardo. I remembered I was trying to get that name stuck in my head from the unboxing video I did of this. Yeah, Clementine, is that how you say that? Campardo? Campardo. Yeah, gorgeous artwork, kind of like watercolor artwork.
Well, I guess it could be digital these days. It's hard to say.
That's true. Well, in a watercolor style.
Yeah, it looks watercolor-esque.
Yeah. So Wyrmspan, very much in line with the Wingspan games. It's very similar, or at least familiar territory when you're learning this game. But there are some pretty significant differences. I'd say the most striking difference when you're first playing the game is I guess there's probably like three big things. Not considering the fact that they're dragons and they're not birds, so it's not based in reality, so to speak. But the first thing I noticed is that you don't have the dice tower. You don't have the net. What do they call it?
Oh, there's no dice at all.
Yeah, what do they call that? Is the nest box or something or whatever it was? It was like a bird nest.
It's
box.
like a bird feeder or bird
feeder. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. It was a bird feeder. I can't think straight. I'm tired from breaking my brain, losing to Sean, and big spoiler, I lost to Sean in this game.
Which I automatically, 10 out of 10 you must have. Just to make sure
he'll play again with me.
10 out of 10 must buy.
Suddenly Sean's got number ratings for games.
Yeah, Wyrmspan fever.
Yeah, I love Wyrmspan. All about Wyrmspan. The bird feeder is gone though. There's no dice. There's no random resource draws in this. Well, I mean, yeah, no, there really isn't anything that's completely random as far as your resource draws are in this game.
It really feels like a different game. Now, it's it sings back to Wingspan.
Absolutely.
With the way the cards, the interaction of the cards, but even that seems to work different. Like, I didn't feel like I was working an engine so much as I did with Wingspan.
Yeah, no, it depends. Yeah, I had some that were like with that. I had one card in the very top, just like on Wingspan. You have these three sections that you're putting your cards down here, and the first one also relates to food in a similar way that Wingspan's first row relates to food. And my first card, I was kind of engineering off of it a bit. It kind of depends because Wingspan can be the same way. They can be like you can get cards that have somewhat of an engine component.
Yeah, I think it's just the kind of the way the cards came to me. I didn't end up doing that.
Right.
Like I didn't do a whole lot of explore actions. Just a couple of them. But it seems like mostly I was putting down more worms.
Yeah, I probably had some more that were doing those kind of engine-y things myself than Sean did in this particular game. But Wingspan can kind of be like that sometimes. Like when I play with Ashley, a lot of the times she'll go for like the big point-scoring birds that usually cost a lot but don't really give you much during the game. So for her, she's not really building up that as much. But there is still always an engine component, just like Wingspan, where you're kind of placing cards out from the row from left to right, and your actions kind of become a little bit more powerful. You're able to gain extra actions as you do this special exploration action, which is one of the differences in the game. But yeah, but the fact that bird feeder's gone, the exploration action is a really big difference in the game, I would say. You have stuff built in on each of these rows again. So when you take an exploration action, you have this little explorer figure or whatever, this dragonologist guy, and he's going and seeing what he can glean from these different caverns that have dragons in them, as he's whispering to them sweet nothings in their ear, and they're passing him off little pieces of meat and milk. But
the dragon milk was kind of a weird thing with this one.
He's I thought milk was kind of a weird resource until I thought about it. Like in most fantasy games, at some point I've heard the term dragon's milk. I guess I have too. And D&D and stuff like that. And you do have like these little hatchling dragons, little baby dragons, and they tend to cost milk to put out on the board. And oftentimes they continue to take milk.
It's
as
spicy.
They activate their actions. Yeah, spicy milk. Yeah, burnt
Sriracha,
milk.
dragon milk,
curdled milk, some hot milk, steamy milk. But this exploration action, this little character you have, he's going to go across the board, and depending on how many of your columns here have been filled out in that particular row, they'll gain extra actions because they'll stop after there's nothing else to go to. If there's no other dragon to go to, they'll stop moving. But if there's dragons in between, the dragons may have actions on them, and then they have actions in between the dragons, and they get to activate the little exploration icon that's at the end of the dragons as well, before they get to an empty cave space or the very end of the line. So that's a big difference. You can set up that more of that engine building component of the game if you want to have cards that have abilities that also activate. So he'll activate in between the dragons and sometimes on the dragons. But that exploration action is quite a big difference in the game. I guess there's at least 4 big mechanical things that I'm looking at. I mean 5, I guess, if I want to keep going. There's a decent amount of differences in the game.
So do you feel like how many times have you played this?
Well, this would be the 3rd time at this point. I played it solo. I played it 2 players twice. It's going to be essentially the same experience playing it.
Do you feel like it replaces it?
I was going to get to that, but no, I don't think it fully replaces Wingspan. I think it definitely has a space on your shelf alongside Wingspan because of all these differences that are in the game. So like one of the other really big differences. So on Wingspan, you started with 8 action cubes. And with those action cubes, each round you're placing one of those on the end round tracker, which it has one of those. It's very similar to Wingspan, a little bit of different theme on some of the words, but it's essentially you got dragon temperaments that are replacing the nest types. And you got large, small, medium, and hatchling-sized dragons that all kind of get affected by these different in-game scoring goals. But you're losing an action every round on Wingspan. So you start with 8, next round you got 7, then you got 6, then you have 5 at the very end. On this one you have these action coins, which are kind of goofy. They're a little. I mean, at least the way they look are a little goofy. They don't really. They're supposed to. I mean, they're kind of metal coins, but they don't look like any kind of coin that would be normally printed. They don't really have a coin.
They're chits, but they're just foil printed.
Yeah, yeah.
And boy, if I was going to cheat though, that's a good cheat, because I tell you what, from a distance, I didn't know.
I love that idea. That's my favorite part about them is the foil print that they did on them. I think that's an excellent idea, but they just don't look like coins on the print. Like
that's true.
They're just a wing on one side and scales on the other. I would have liked it much better if they would have maybe done a ring, like a normal coin stamp, and then had something a little bit more
or a weird shape and be like a dragon scale, like the dragon scales were currency or something.
Yeah, you could do, because it's kind of weird. Like, what are you paying in dragon wings, or like, I mean, and they have scales on the other side, but it's like it just looks like a real close up version of some of the the scales that would be on a dragon. So that's a little bit of a miss and a little bit of a hit with the foil thing. I think anybody that does printed coins should do the foil thing. I think that looks nice. But they had to put it on a whole separate cardboard sheet when they did that. So I'd imagine that maybe that's a little difficult to mix that print style with the other prints. I don't know what they do to make that so shiny.
Yeah, there's something about this. It's a little different. Like it's got a sort of a pearlescence or something to it. It's like not just silvery. It's kind of purple or something. There's something about it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It does have that metallic color though, whatever, that real metal kind of shine to it. But aside from what they look like, as far as the way they play, anytime you do any action on the game, you're going to at least have to spend one of those coins to do it. And then you have some of the dragons actually require you to give up an additional coin whenever you're playing them. But those coins can also be gained in different ways during the game. So you might gain them from placing cave cards down, or certain dragons might give them to you. And so you can increase the number of turns you have. Like I had like a whole nother round's worth of turns at the end of my game. I still lost after like Sean had to just go leave the room for a minute while I was finishing what I was doing because I was taking so long in the end, and then still losing my 2 points at the end of it.
I was shocked.
Yeah, I just couldn't get the luck of the card draws to work in my favor at the end, and I was reaching too far and gaining nothing. But it's neat though. I really like that. I like the manipulation of how many turns you can do on it, because it puts you out too. Like it wasn't like I just got those for free. I had to like kind of strain myself in order to get those extra actions. I just didn't pay out at the end. But every round you'll automatically get 6 of those. You'll also automatically gain 1 egg, which is different than Wingspan, so that's another rules difference. So they're kind of helping you in that line of things. I think eggs in general are maybe more difficult to get in this game, because there's not just a basic action to gain eggs. You gain them as you build out your caves really far down the line, and then you only gain 1 naturally whenever you do the exploration off of those, so they're a little harder to get.
Yeah, you can only get them here or there. You kind of have to look for them in your dragons and stuff that you're putting down too, because there's a lot of different ones that'll lay eggs.
Or the cave cards themselves sometimes will pop up with some as well. So they're giving you 1 egg as well, but you're always going to have at least 6 action coins per round, and then you have again ways to manipulate those, either gaining or sometimes even losing some of those as you're doing your actions. So that's real big difference in the game. The other big difference is the dragon guild sheet here. I'm going to zoom this in just a little bit so I can pull that over. Okay, cool. So this Dragon Guild, I really like this. This is probably one of my favorite things about the game. Yeah, we're kind of balancing on top of eggs. But this is probably one of my favorite things in the game. I don't know where your shield is at. You have opportunities every time that you're exploring. You're getting at least one of these as soon as you put your first dragon down. Anyways, you move it down the line enough that every time you do your exploration action going down those rows, you're going to end up getting a movement around this little circle here. And so that circle will have all these different benefits that you gain as you go around it. And then in the middle, once you pass either the bottom or the top in the middle, you get to place one of these little cubes down in one of these spaces that are like you're taking that away from the other person. They can't put theirs there. And so they give you random benefits. They're random per game, because every time you play the game, you're going to flip. You put one of these guild cards down. Like we played with the Guild of Seafarers on this last one. And
it looks like it's by player count too.
Yeah. The other side has a little bit more options on it. I think most of the actions are the same, but they'll give you things like they'll let you put down dragons for free. Sometimes they'll give you like an extra action coin. You got in-game points. You got I think every one of these has a 6-point spot and a 3-point spot and a 1-point spot. So the 6-point spot alone is like usually like a dragon's worth of points. Depending on your dragons, they probably average out to usually be around 6 points apiece.
This is the same as the other side, but with an extra action because
Yeah.
it's for 4 or 5 people, so it doesn't get blocked out so fast.
And these are like, they're not like, I don't know. I mean, I haven't compared every single one of these, but I feel like from the couple other ones I played, these seem like fairly similar actions that you're getting on these ones. Are just manipulated a little bit differently depending on what guild you're using. Because they've got one like Guild of the Plains, and they got Guild of something else, Forest or something. So they got a few. They got 4 different ones of these to use, so you can use those to make your game a little different each time you play it as you're randomizing it, just like you randomize these kind of end round scoring chits here that show you what kind
Goals.
of goals. There you go.
Goals.
And so that's nice, but I really like manipulating this to gain extra resources, gain extra cards. It just gives you one extra thing that you can manipulate as you're playing the game to make it a little, to give you a little bit more crunchy decisions. It feels really good when you can manipulate that board in a way that benefits you. If you've got certain dragons that give you an extra movement down that track as you explore. I had one that did that. You got some of the cave cards might give you abilities to move down that as well, and that's just a really nice addition. It does remind me a little bit of the Asia expansion, the 2-player expansion of Wingspan. They had this little board where you could gain those extra benefits. I can't remember if it was per round or whatever, if it's something that you could get during the round, but that really made it fun. Yeah, there it is. So on the back of that, they had, may not be able to see it here, but it's this special board or whatever. We got all these extra little benefits that you can gain as you put stuff down on it.
Okay.
So I really like that in the Asia expand. This is probably my favorite of the Wingspan versions that I play, because I'm usually playing it 2 players anyways when I'm playing it. But I probably like this better than any of the other versions of Wingspan.
This is my only copy of Wingspan now. I gave away my bigger one.
Right, yeah.
And I got this one as a gift, and I've been, I gave away my bigger one because I probably will only play this 2-player or solo. Because nobody else, like Holly didn't like it very much. You probably like it and stuff, but at the time I didn't really have that many people to play with.
Yeah.
So I was excited to get this 2-player version.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. I mean, there's I don't think I've even played the Oceania expansion. I've had that one, but I don't think we've actually gotten it out. It's a little bit different, just adds those extra resources and stuff in it, But anyways, I really like that a whole lot. There's one other minor difference in the game that I'll mention too, is that you can't like build your, like on Wingspan, you could just put a bird down, then like you might have to pay an egg to put another one down in the next row, and then you put maybe 2 eggs in the next section or whatever it was. On this one, you have to have a cave for your dragons to go into. So I know we've kind of been talking about the cave cards. But I haven't really explained, like these cave cards, you get to, if you want to pull that board off for a second, I'll pull this back just a little bit. So underneath each one of these dragons, there's a cave that they can be placed down in. These can be placed wherever you want to go in the game. I mean, whatever row that you want to, this has to be from left to right. And they'll always give you some kind of a benefit. A lot of times it's resources. It might give you a trade out, like where you trade like up to 3 dragons to gain something or whatever. You might gain movement up the guild track or whatever. But you have to have these built out before you can put your dragons down, so that means you're going to have to take an action to do that. You have the very first one is printed on the board itself, so you don't have to play one on the very first section, so you got somewhere to actually start getting your dragons down. But those are actually really fun in the game, because it really, again, helps you manipulate the different resources that you need, get different points, get action coins. There's a lot of different little options that those caves come out in. They show up on the dragon board the same way that the dragons do. So you've got 3 dragons, and then you've got the 3 caves as well, and so there'll always be that selection out there. So when you take one round, it replenishes at the end of your turn, and so those are kind of changing out. I mean, I guess that's one benefit of, like, if you were to play a 3-4 player game of this, You might have more options to kind of min-max your points. You might actually gain more points if you play a bigger game of this, just because that's going to be cycling a little more often. It might give you the ones that you need.
No, that's true.
But
You'd end up with a lot better selection of dragons probably, or you'd be fighting eternally and not ever getting what you want.
like me.
Because
that
other
was the
people
name of my game. Yeah.
There'll be more people grabbing the dragons you want to get. So
that's true. Yeah. So, but you might have, because you will get some asymmetrical things going on your board. Like I had some stuff that Sean totally wasn't worried about that I was worrying about at the end that just didn't quite get there. I tried so hard. I got so far, but in the end it didn't matter. So it was at Lincoln Park instead of but anyways, so that complexity of the game is definitely a notch higher than Wingspan.
Oh, you think so?
I think so. Just because there's a lot more to like Sean likes to play these games kind of like you said impulsively, which worked out for him in this one. He says, "I'll just take this and that." I was stressing about it because there's a lot of options. There's a lot of things you can do to kind of manipulate how you're able to make the game work for you and get those points that you're looking for. That Wingspan I feel like has less options with that. You're not dealing with the dragons. You're kind of at the whim of the randomness of the dice that are thrown in the bird feeder. You don't have the Dragon Guild section to manipulate to know that you can gain extra resources from that. Otherwise it's pretty similar with the effects that the dragons themselves give you. Their little bonuses. The exploration actions basically taking the place of the brown actions of the birds that would happen whenever you take a certain row.
I think the 3 zones and the way the stuff on the card is constructed is very similar to Wingspan.
Yeah.
And then after that, it just kind of goes like, psh, because the stuff, maybe there's some different rules, like tucking is something from Wingspan too.
Caching food is very similar.
Caching food, like it took all those things, but I think it appropriately changed the way it plays.
Yeah. It feels like a different game. It does not feel like you're playing Wingspan with dragons painted on top. It does feel different enough. I think even in Wingspan, I think there were 5. I believe, if I remember right, I just played this the other day, so I should know. But I played a couple games of Wingspan in between then. I believe there are 5 columns of birds in Wingspan. I could be wrong on that. If I am, I'll correct it in some little notes right here. But I believe but you still have the same 3 rows, and in again similar way where you got one row that's giving you food, one row gives you dragon cards and one row gives you cave cards, whereas in the other one row gave you eggs and one row gave you the only cards, which were the bird cards in Wingspan. So that's different. But overall, I really like this better than Wingspan, only for the fact that I like a game that's a little heavier and gives you some crunchier decisions than what Wingspan does.
And you like fantasy themes.
Yeah, I do like the dragon thing. Granted, if they did the exact same, I don't know. If all this was a Wingspan with dragons instead of birds, I don't think I would have cared to want to have it. I actually waited until I saw some information about it before I decided that I was going to order it. And it looked like it was different enough that I was intrigued. I was intrigued by those big rules differences and wanted to try it. And I think it worked out because I do think I'll keep this in my my collection. Now, if I had to pick one entirely, I would probably pick this. I think if I was going over between Wingspan or Wyrmspan. That's again, that Asia expansion is really nice for Wingspan because Wingspan's kind of a lighter game. So it's like sometimes they make these lighter games, they make all these expansions for them and all this extra content, and you get it all, and you're like, God, why do I have all this stuff for this game? That's a fairly, I would consider Wingspan to be on the heavy end of light, the light end of medium. It's kind of it's right in that kind of gray zone in between.
Well, you get into this position where you've got literally hundreds of games to choose from.
Yeah.
And it gets really hard. You got to it's got to be that just you like this aspect of it a little bit more than that aspect of it. It's like, do you want to look at birds that you see all the time, or a bunch of weird dragons?
Yeah, and I mean, some people are a lot more tied into, like, they like things that are based in some kind of reality.
Like I have some relatives and stuff, and when I play with them, if it's sci-fi or anything like that, they're
this isn't real.
If it's historical based, even like the Mad King Ludwig versus, like, something like that. If there's something reality based to it, they liked it better, and I think that'll be a big kind of one way or another. Like if you like fantasy stuff more than you like real life stuff, maybe this is a natural pick for you.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a step up in weight. So if you like a little heavier game, I mean, I'd put this right in a good medium weight game. Like a good medium weight game. So it's not like crazy harder than Wingspan, but it's certainly going to be more difficult for people that don't play board games than Wingspan would be. I've taught Wingspan to people that don't play board games, and they pick it up pretty quick. It's not a problem. I think they get the basic ideas of this, but like the directions and, like, trying to figure out, like, how do I do this to do that? They kind of get a little tied up with how, where do I get my resources at, and trying to puzzle that together. It starts to become a little more hairy in this game, in a good way, again, in my opinion. So I like that, but I gotta
say, I really love the art.
Yeah.
Like, and I am actually kind of shocked that I am enjoying the art on here. I'm very particular on my dragons and stuff, and I don't like okay, so Tiny Epic Dinosaurs, for instance. Looked like it was made for toddlers.
Yeah, it's not Sean's bag.
Yeah, I hated it. I liked the game. We played it. I had a good time. Still will never buy it because it looks like it was made for a 3-year-old. And I was so I was somewhat concerned that perhaps this would be like so effeminate that I would just be kind of like feeling like I'm playing a little girl's game or something like that. But these and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Except that I don't necessarily want to be immersed in it, and like a what was the My Little Pony thing with the dragon? Right. Anyway,
it's not a brony, is what
not a brony type, So, but the dragons in here were there was a really wide variety. There's so many. They're all different, right?
Yeah, just like Wingspan, every single dragon on here is different. I don't think they're repeating. I don't even think the hatchlings repeat themselves.
There's so many, and some of them are like really neat. Some of them are cutesy, because they're hatchlings, but they're they're little baby dragons, and that's okay.
They gave I guess this was Connie then that created this like a whole booklet of dragon facts. This is like thicker than any of the rules stuff. It has 180 something whatever. I think it's 183 dragons in it. So she put a little blurb on each one of them, like a few sentences, nothing too big,
but enough bestiary,
enough to give them a little bit of life. Like the Willie Lindworm, Lady Pepper's Anthology of Dragons quotes the last words of Tybalt the Tracker as follows: "Ack, Hans, run! It's the Willie Lindworm." Lady Pepper notes, "A good man died that day, and for what purpose?" So that one's a little that one's even more goofy. They got another one where it's like, "This species, the yellow-bellied lung dragon, this species is blustering but ultimately harmless. It can most reliably be distinguished from its venomous look-alike cousin, the selfish lung dragon, by the green markings on the underside of its claws, but we don't recommend getting close enough to check." I mean, that's fun. That's fun that they did that, especially for the artwork of the game. If you're like kind of gushing over the artwork, and then you got something else to just help tie you into the game, it's completely unnecessary for them to have done that, and I love it. Though I think it's a fun addition into the game. Because you could sit there and pull those out. They took all that extra little bit of information off the cards. They didn't want to make it so busy. Wingspan, I think, has the little bits of information on the cards themselves, but there's already so much stuff on these cards, instructions and things like that that just bypassed doing that. So, but this theme of of this kind of watercolor art theme that she's got going on, it's got that softer, more kind of feminine quality to it, which I I don't mind a bit. I think it's really pretty. It's not lasers and whatever monster robot.
Yeah, it's not grim dark kind of. Yeah, it's not real gritty and stuff like that. It feels kind of light.
Yeah, it feels soft, and but it's very pretty though. She did a really good job with it. Some really I mean, she must have sat down every night and sat there and said, okay, what kind of dragon are we gonna make tonight? And sat there and just like painted. I had to, because each one is pretty unique. So so good job with that.
Oh, they're so good though.
Yeah. Caves are kind of random. They're just background art, nothing too special with those, but they're fine. The colors are like kind of throw you off at first. You're like, oh, what level can this go into? But they can go into any levels. So some of them are actually painted the same color as the cavern.
I thought that was confusing.
Just at first, yeah. So eventually, just
until you explained it didn't matter.
Yeah, so they can go anywhere. Yeah, and I did play the solo version of the game. The Automa is, easy, very easy. I mean, easy to play. It's
not easy to win.
I think I did win it, but I think I played it on one of the easier levels of it. They got difficulty levels just like Wingspan does. Very simple to play though, and it doesn't take up much space because they don't need a whole player board. They just do like simple actions where they get to kind of skip resources and things like that. So I think that seemed really well done. It was a great way for me to learn the game initially. But yeah, I think they did a great job with the game overall. Now, as far as like rating the game goes, with Wingspan, I'd probably put Wingspan at like a 7 out of 10. Kind of like a game that I genuinely enjoy the game anytime I play it. I'm not rushing out to go play it all the time. Wyrmspan, I think, is a notch higher than that. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10 because I think it's a game that I am going to be want to play more than Wingspan. I'm still not like just dying to play this constantly. I don't want to play this over and over and over again. But if anybody wants to play Wyrmspan, I'm going to be happy to get it out and pull it out and play it again.
And right now it's new.
and it is new now, yeah. But I'm saying that, but like I had a mutual friend of ours who we're playing online on Tabletop Simulator. They don't have Wyrmspan. He had never played Wingspan, so I taught him how to play Wingspan. I thoroughly enjoyed playing Wingspan with him. So
yeah,
it's not a knock on Wingspan at all to put it as a 7 out of 10 with Wingspan. It's still a game that I enjoy quite a bit. But
and for me, I didn't love Wingspan.
Mm-hmm.
I like it enough to play it now and then and stuff. That's why I scaled back and just kept like a little dueling version.
Sure, yeah.
But this seems a lot more entertaining. Yeah. I'm probably not going to rush out and buy it since you have it. We can play it now. We can play it whenever you want.
Yeah, getting that
around
play or two every so often is probably enough of a fix for you.
But I did appreciate the opportunity to play it, and this is kind of thing like if it shows up on some super deal on Black Friday sometime in the future, I probably would grab it up too.
Yeah, I think if you're going to have only one Wingspan type game, and again, you're not needing a game for somebody that only plays doesn't hardly ever play games or isn't in the hobby very much. If you're a hobby gamer, I think, and you want one Wingspan game, this would be the one to get out of all of the different versions of Wingspan that are out there right now. So. But they did a good job, so I really enjoyed it. But I think that's about all I've got to say about Wyrmspan for today. So, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Appreciate it so much, just having your eyeballs and hanging out with us for a little bit. Randomly throwing crap out about dragons and dragon milk and
deep thoughts on worms.
On worms, all these wyvern worms. But anyways, if you guys enjoy this kind of content, a couple of those free clicks on the screen really helps support out channels like mine and like Sean's. So appreciate it so much when you do. But as always, do what is right for you. Till next time, I hope you guys are enjoying the games that you have, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Until next time, take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.